The stock market just hit another record high, and it has never mattered less to the person watching it. Barron saw the headline on his phone this morning: S&P 500 closes at a record, right above a text from his landlord raising the rent. He flipped the phone face down and finished his cereal. 3 floors up, same building, Nikki saw the same headline. She didn't flip her phone over. She watched a number in her brokerage app tick up by more than Barron makes in a year, sipped her coffee, and got on with her morning. Same city, same building, same words on the same screen, 2 completely different planets. My name is Nick, and today we're answering the question quietly driving everyone insane. If the world is so obviously on fire, if everything costs more and nobody can buy a house, then why does the stock market keep throwing a party like nothing's wrong? This isn't a story about the market being wrong, it's about what that scoreboard is actually measuring, and why it was never measuring you. So here's the first thing you have to understand, and it's the thing almost nobody says out loud. The stock market is not the economy. I know you've heard that phrase before, tossed around by people on TV who then immediately fail to explain what it means, so let me actually explain it. Think of the stock market as a giant scoreboard hanging over a stadium. Your instinct, a completely reasonable instinct, is to assume that scoreboard is measuring how the whole crowd is doing. It isn't. It's measuring how a very small number of players down on the field are doing. You're in the stands, most of us are in the stands. And that scoreboard lighting up green doesn't mean your seat got any more comfortable or your beer got any cheaper. It just means the players you paid to watch are having a fantastic night. Once you actually internalize that one image, the paradox stops being a paradox and starts being kind of obvious. Because here's the second layer, and it's a big one. The stock market doesn't care about right now. It never has. The economy, jobs, wages, the price of eggs, whether your rent went up again, that's a measure of what's happening today. The stock market is a bet on what a handful of enormous companies will earn years from now. It's not a thermometer, it's a fortune teller. And a pretty overconfident one. So when you feel broke today and the market rips to a new high on the very same day, those two things aren't even describing the same time period. You're describing your Tuesday. The market is pricing in 2030. And here's the kicker, it's not even pricing in your 2030. Roughly 28% of the revenue that the companies in the S&P 500 bring in doesn't even come from the United States. It comes from overseas. For the big technology companies specifically, it's more than half. So take that board you keep anxiously glancing at, the one you assume reflects your town, your job, your local grocery store. A huge chunk of it isn't measuring any of that. It's measuring how well Apple sells phones in Europe and how many chips get shipped to data centers on the other side of the planet. Your struggling Tuesday and a booming S&P 500 were never a contradiction. They were never even on the same map. And if you want proof that the market and your actual life can just wander off in totally different directions, look at history. In early 2020, during the worst of the pandemic, unemployment exploded to levels not seen since the Great Depression. People were genuinely terrified. And the stock market? It crashed for about a month, then turned around and sprinted to brand new record highs while millions of people were still out of work. Record highs and unemployment lines holding hands at the exact same time. It has happened before, and it'll happen again, because the two things were never the same measurement. Now, if I told you the market's at a record high, you'd probably picture all 500 companies rising together, a rising tide lifting every boat. Yeah, that's not what's happening either. Let me show you where the party is actually being held, because it's a much smaller room than you think. There's a group of companies people have started calling the Magnificent Seven: Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Alphabet, which is Google, Meta, which is Facebook, and Tesla. 7 companies out of 500. And right now, those 7 names alone make up around 32% of the entire index. Let that sit for a second. 7 names out of 500 are basically a third of the whole thing. Now widen it to the 10 biggest companies, and you're looking at over 40% of the index riding on just 10 stocks. The last time concentration was even close to this extreme was the dot-com bubble back in the year